Gotta make it tall like Hokuseiho.
Fucking tree. That goddamn Groot
Tree
motherfucker.
Guy. Fucking Gurutu.
Guruto.
Guruto. No.
Guruto.
Yeah, how would you even, like, do that phonetic? I don't know.
Watashi wa Guruto desu. That's his, all he says. Watashi wa Guruto desu.
You know what we need to do is we just need to, like, find one of those Guardians of the Galaxy's movies in Japanese.
Oh. I think it's on Disney Plus.
Fuck yeah, man. They got, like, actual Japanese dubbed version.
I think so. We should check, because I really want to fuck with that. You know, like, watashi wa Guruto desu. If that's not what it is, that's what it is now.
Oh my god, because that's literally the only thing that he says. So, like, anytime Hokuseiho, like, has a match, we could just start screaming that at the TV.
Watashi wa Guruto desu.
I bet it's, like, nothing near that.
I bet it probably doesn't have the watashi wa. It might just be
okay. We gotta find it now.
Okay.
We gotta find it. Pull that shit up on your Disney Plus. See if you can find it. You got it? Oh my god! That's exactly what he says! It's exactly it!
Well, except for the, I made it more formal with the des, but... No, I mean...
Watashi wa Guruto! Yes!
That's fucking great.
Oh my god, I'm gonna be screaming that at the TV like every fucking basho now. Fuck yes, dude.
Watashi wa Guruto! It works!
Or what was that one, like, Japanese commercial? It was like the long, long man or something.
Wait, what?
You've never seen that one? Look it up. Look that one up. That shit's gotta be on YouTube or something.
Long, long man.
Yes! That's the one! Okay.
What the fuck?
Okay, so we're gonna have to switch back and forth between Watashi wa Guruto and long, long man.
You know what's hilarious? We should make a soundboard. Holy shit.
We should make a soundboard.
Just so we could have it, like, anytime we just need, like, a quick, like, punctuation sample or a clip or whatever. We
like, just for Hokuseiho?
Not just for this, man. All right. Well, too bad Chio Tairu's not here, because I would totally, like, actually record, like, that snippet, 10, 15 seconds of that, ooh-wee-oo, Chio Tairu, ooh-wee-oo, Chio Tairu.
Man, that brings me back.
I know. But I don't know who has a name that's, like, kind of like that. I don't know, Uiyu Fuji Seiyun.
Well, what's another Rikishi we can put on the soundboard?
Oh,
like,
God.
What's some stupid thing we yell at the TV when we're watching these bashos?
Man, Big Dan.
Big Dan.
Big Dan. Large Daniel.
I guess we can just record ourselves.
And just, like, make it, pitch it super low, like, Big Dan. No, put me on the spot. I can't really think of, like, too many, but I know I have them. I know we all think about them.
Okay, every time Ura comes on the screen, we just have, like, a magical, like, sparkle noise or some shit for Ura.
Or if we see him, like, fucking, like, when he starts bouncing off the dohyo, if we could find boing noises.
Yeah! Do you remember that old Gummy Bears cartoon?
Oh my god,
yeah,
yes.
Just, like, play the theme song for that or some shit.
God, poor Ura. Do you think that in Japan, Ura might actually be the Hamburglar?
What? What? Sometimes, honestly, in my head, I do picture him as Randy from Trailer Park Boys. With a gut full of dirty little cheeseburgers.
It's like, Ura, watashi wa donakuro desu. Lehi-san. Man, I wish I knew how to do that whole part, where it's like, Mr. Leahy, is that you talking or the liquor?
Leahy-kun.
Leahy-kun. It's like, Ura-chan.
Watashi wa the liquor.
Watashi wa the liquor.
Sumo Punx! Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx, Sumo Punx!
In this corner, weighing in at 3,320 standard uncooked hot dogs, current holder of the Intercontinental Championship belt.
Yeah, Jake.
Mustard Tits the Murder Master, Matt Jim!
Yeah! Yeah! In this corner, weighing in at material existence is meaningless and fleeting, 6-time zero-gravity speed pegging world champion, the soul-stabbing succubus of sass, Sabrina!
Yeah, let's do this!
And this is Sumo Punx!
Woo! Man, I'm fucking pumped now.
I know, it's
yeah.
I really, it does make me feel like, yeah, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah, let's do this.
So we have a fat episode for
a thick,
it's a baddie.
meaty episode
Lots
for
of
you.
meat.
We actually watched the new Netflix series Sanctuary about 5 or 6 times. I don't know how many times you watched it, but I must have watched it all the way through about 5 or 6 times.
I think I've got maybe 3 times under my belt, because between like here and my mom's house, you know, it's Mother's Day, so I had to go cook for my mom, and of course, you know, watch Sanctuary on my phone while I'm cooking.
Yeah, of course. Make her watch it too, as your Mother's Day gift to her.
And we also watched it in English and in Japanese with the subtitles.
It's actually surprisingly similar between the two versions.
Yeah, very similar. There are some, you know, cultural differences that the American dialogue writers did kind of take liberties with, but it expresses the same kind of like sentiment and emotion, even though it's not necessarily exactly what they said word for word.
And we're going to break all that down in just a moment, but before we do, let's talk about the upcoming events. In this corner, on May 20th, so coming up real soon, actually.
That's this weekend.
Yeah, that is this weekend. The U.S. Sumo Open in Long Beach, California. We're going to have people coming from all over the world. This is the largest tournament in the U.S. It's been going on for 23 straight years now. This is going to be a fantastic event. If you can make it out, definitely try to.
There's going to be a live stream.
There is going to be a live stream. A bunch of our homies are going to be there. We are still broke as shit, so unfortunately
we don't get to go, but we're going to be screaming at the TV at the live stream. The one last year was really fucking cool. Hayden from Dallas Sumo Club participated, and he did really fucking good.
That dude is a beast.
Yeah, and seeing how Hayden did at Rollertown, and you know, just trying to fight him in practice, it's just like, oh goddamn. He's been training his ass off, and I am super stoked to see what he brings to the U.S. Open.
Hell yeah.
All right, June 10th, the 2nd annual Riverfront Sumo Open, hosted by Grand Rapids Sumo Club, held during JFAX at Devo's Place. 2 p.m. local time. There will be a training camp held on June 9th, the day before, and June 11th. Both of the training camp days are at noon. And if you want more information, get in touch with Grand Rapids Sumo Club, typically Gabe Unick or Micah Hepler. Those guys know everything Grand Rapids.
Oh, hell yeah. Now, this isn't the one that's part of the big art festival.
No.
This is the other one that they
I think this is a like a comic book convention or anime convention, I think it's something like that.
Nice. Well, then after that, on June 17th, we're going to be having the 2nd annual Cowboy Cup, hosted by Dallas Sumo Club. This will actually be happening as part of the USA Fit Games at K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. So not actually part of FitCon this year, after all. But it will still be indoors, so we can keep ourselves safe from that brutal heat. Man, this is like one of my favorite tournaments of the year. I am so stoked for this.
I'm way fucking stoked. This is going to be super fucking awesome. And I hope to see everybody at this one because this is going to be, you know, Roller Town was a great like celebratory event, you know, an homage to Ozumo. But this is a tournament that counts. You know, this is a federation. So
yes. So tell us what's coming up in July.
Ooh, July 28th through 30th, Raijin Sumo Club's North Carolina Sumo Camp. Come train with the U.S. Sumo team as they prepare for the Sumo World Championships and World Combat Games. Raijin is located in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're not exactly sure where the training camp itself is going to be held, but we will have more details as we get them. And this is Eric Wynn. This is Edibo Konyeha. This is Sensei Seth. So all of those dudes that are, you know, that just
pretty
really
big names in the amateur U.S. sumo world. Honestly.
Yeah, and they really showed out at nationals. So, I mean, if you seriously want to train among some of the best sumo wrestlers in the nation, this is going to be where it's at.
Hell yeah. And we are going to be trying to make our way out there so that we can participate in this. I mean, I'm probably not going to participate myself, but I'm at least going to bug y'all while you're doing it. Yeah. It's going to be great. I really need a vacation. And I'm sure, you know, the extra training will be very beneficial as well.
Oh, hell yeah.
And then right after that, on August 5th, we have the Scottish Sumo Open in Glasgow, hosted by Clan Sumo and the illustrious Scott Findlay. So if you haven't already gotten your passports for this, it may be a good time to do it, like, literally right now. As you're listening to this, go online and sign up for your passport.
Do it!
It takes a while to get that shit. I don't even know if this is enough time to get it before you have to get on the plane and go, but you might as well try if you're really wanting to go to this awesome fucking tournament.
Otherwise, you're stuck taking a boat.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Can you get to a boat on Scotland?
I think that would take longer, actually.
Well, you better get your passport.
I don't know. Find some Yakuza or something to... I mean, just tell them it's for sumo, and they'll be like, oh, it's for sumo. Okay, don't worry. We'll get you on the private jet.
And you can always keep up with all of the events at sumo411.com, ran by Kellyanne Ball, and it is an invaluable tool. So check it out.
Indeed. They also have an Instagram page now, I noticed.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah, they don't have much up on there right now, but hopefully soon they will. So let's go ahead and get into the meat of the episode now. If you're listening, I assume that you have already watched the show. Because
there are going to be spoilers.
Spoilers, yes.
Spoiler alert. So if you have not watched all of Sanctuary, you should probably...
Go do exactly that.
Yeah.
But if you were excited about it in the same extreme way that we were before it came out, I'm sure you also watched it 5 times in a row. For the rare person who, for whatever reason, has not seen it, you know, stuck in a cave in the mountains since it came out, got abducted by aliens.
And if you just got put back on Earth today after your cave alien adventure and you still haven't watched Sanctuary,
here's what it's all about.
Okay.
Why don't you tell the kids?
All right. So I do want to give a very small, quick disclaimer that this is the synopsis that Sabrina wrote. Because I just gave it a quick once over and I'm like, oh, geez. Okay, so this is her words coming from my mouth. Kiyoshi is a crass asshole and petty thug from a broken home. His family used to run a sushi shop, but couldn't keep up with the debt, so it shut down. His mom left his dad and now sucks dick for money whenever she's not busy publicly dry humping her inexplicably bare-chested boyfriend. Kiyoshi is convinced by the Oyakata of Insho Stable to become a sumo wrestler, and he agrees only when he finds out how much money he could potentially make. Potentially. He is likely loosely based on former Yokozuna Asashoryu. Would you say Asashoryu kind of...
Yeah, I would. And many other people have mentioned that as well.
I kind of, as the series progresses, I could kind of see a little bit of
Definitely.
That. When he arrives at the stable, he doesn't really take it seriously, refuses to do Shiko, and starts to get bullied by some of the other wrestlers. That's a big no. That's like 98% of sumo.
Shiko is the number
Shiko is sumo.
Exactly.
All right. Nevertheless, he does surprisingly well and is given the Shikona Eno. And that is another thing that I thought was hilarious is the way that, as English speakers, when we try to do all of this research on Japanese sumo using these Japanese language sources, a lot of the times the kanji can translate into something completely wild, or it would just give you the wrong thing. I think some great examples are anytime you try to look up anything about Shodai, he pops up as Masayo.
Yeah.
And if you want to look up Onosho, well, then you better look for Abusaki.
Yeah.
And if you want to look for, was it Oho? Was he Waipeng or something like that?
Something, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of these kanji actually have, I wouldn't even say double meaning, multiple meaning.
Yes.
And they could be read in a variety of different ways, which is why a lot of these sumo shikona often get mistranslated using, Google Translate or Deep SL, whatever that other one is.
Yeah.
So anyway, a scene that I thought was hilarious is whenever Eno was getting his shikona, whenever Ensho Oyakata was, getting the calligraphy brush and was just, writing out the kanji, and he shows it to him all proud, and he's like, Saru Zakura? Pfft, that's lame. It's like, who wants to be Saru Zakura? Saru is a monkey.
Yeah.
And then Sakura, the cherry blossoms.
Yeah.
So he's the cherry blossom monkey. And he did not want to be the cherry blossom monkey. He's like, whatever. But then, Ensho is like, it's not Saru Zakura. And he slaps him in the head. He's like, you're reading it wrong. It's En-no. And he's like, oh, that's still fucking lame. But
well, like you mentioned a moment ago, he's kind of an asshole.
Very much an asshole. But the Oyakata of Inushima stable hates Ensho and attempts to sabotage him at every chance, trying to get Eno expelled on a few different occasions for his irreverent behavior. Inushima Oyakata is just mad that he never made Yokozuna, feeling that Ensho somehow got in his way. Ensho is married to the daughter of the head of the Sumo Association, and she sometimes helps him get out of jams caused by Inushima. So, and that's kind of a thing that I, wanted to touch on just a little bit. There was a scene whenever Eno was getting reprimanded, getting in trouble. Inushima was like, oh, you're out of here. You just need to leave. And Eno's like, wait, is this because you could never beat Ensho whenever you guys used to compete? Oh my God, that's it, isn't it? You never beat him and you're so mad about it. So now you gotta act out. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I could be so insensitive sometimes, but that's what this is. Okay.
Definitely go watch the scene.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
It's pretty funny.
I love that. And I was just banging on my legs like, oh my God, that's so great. Because sometimes I just want, I don't know. Anyway, so, Eno meets a big-tittied hostess named Nanami, who immediately lures him under her mammarian spell. Sabrina. Only to use him for his money. Eno also meets a slimy tech bro who promises to be his patron, but unsurprisingly ends up being a total huge douchebag. He occasionally sees a wrestler from another stable, Shizouchi, in a nearby park. Shizouchi has a scar covering half of his face, never speaks, and likes to stand in the park staring up into a huge cherry tree. In his own crass way, Eno seems to try to befriend Shizouchi, buying him a drink, helping him tie his mawashi, giving him his first cigarette. But despite his quiet demeanor, Shizouchi is a monster in the ring and ends up causing lasting damage to Eno and piquing the interest of the newest Ozeki, Ryuki. Ryuki is the very handsome and regal son of the master of his stable and former Yokozuna, Ryokoku Oyakata. His father is extremely domineering, very religious, and has shady connections that help him pull strings in the sumo world. He is extremely demanding of his son, and Ryuki finds it increasingly difficult to deal with the stress. These characters are likely based on the real-life Rikishi, Wakanohana and Takanohana, possibly their dad or maybe their uncle. Probably their uncle. So, yeah.
So it was Takanohana, wasn't it? I always get them confused. Which one was the one who was said to be part of some sort of like
that's Takanohana
cult?
Yeah, there was some talk about Takanohana being a part of a. It was like a Shintoist cult or something like that, but they were also had connections to the Yakuza with running weapons.
And there is a scene in the show where it shows them at this, like, Shinto-looking ritual where everybody's chanting and stuff. And that's where, like, I really made the connection, like, I've heard about this before. And I started looking more into it and found on some of the Japanese blogs and stuff, other people making that comparison.
And so the Ito character, he's a patron of the Rokkoku stable, and he is also, I don't know, how would you describe him? Would you say cult leader? Would you use that term?
He's part of that same religious group that Ryokoku is. He's definitely a shady guy, though.
He's very shady guy, but the way Ryokoku talks to him,
clearly got power. Yeah,
because Ryokoku seems like he is like not to be dominated. There is nobody above him. He was the Yokozuna. The way he speaks, he is very much in charge, and you dare not talk back to him or even question his authority.
But he does defer a lot to
Ito, which is like, that kind of shook me. I was like, oh, well, fuck, who is this Ito guy to have, this powerful, rich, domineering man?
This little old man, but he's scary.
He's way scary.
He's just this unassuming little old man, but you can tell, like, there's something evil about him.
One of the situations that happens is, and of course, Sanctuary is all about the underbelly of Ozumo. So, of course, they were going to have to mention Yaocho.
They got to get that drama in there.
Yeah, so if you guys know Yaocho, that's the match fixing. So whenever there was the huge match fixing scandal about 20 years ago? Maybe almost 20 years ago?
Oh, no, it was more recent than...
Was it 10 years? 10, 15 years ago?
I want to say it was like 2011.
Oh, okay. I was thinking like 2005 for some reason. Anyway, so you're right. I think it was 2011, 2012. So the match fixing scandal that resulted in the expulsion of some like 20-something different Rikishi.
Yeah, that was a huge deal. And what's funny is there had been people in the 90s who had come forward about that. Some of them who mysteriously died. There were people in the early 2000s who came forward about that. And these weren't just randos. These were former Rikishi. These were Oyakata who were blowing the whistle on this stuff. But, it got swept under the rug. It got dismissed as just tabloid sensationalism.
Or in the case of those two dudes that died of the exact same symptoms in the hospital around the exact same time.
Yeah, well, that was until there was finally an investigation, and then they had to dismiss all of those Rikishi because they were all a part of it.
Yeah. And there was another, what was it? Freakonomics, for whatever reason, had some sort of little blurb about it. Now, take this as you will, because I don't take Freakonomics worth a goddamn. But anyway, so what he was saying in there is that it was concentrated mostly to the Juryo division because everybody wanted to stay in Juryo. They wanted to remain Sekitori, and they did not want to go back to Makushita.
Yeah, they did make a pretty convincing argument for it, though.
But at the same time, epistemologically speaking, the rest of Freakonomics is probably not the most. It's got some
problems. Yeah. It's definitely got some problems, but we'll leave
we'll get that to everybody. So, back to Yaocho Zumo. Ito was actually part of a ploy to try and get one of the Rikishi to throw his match.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of
it did not go the way
it did not go the way, and
it went quite the opposite.
And it was during that whole scene involving, trying to blackmail someone into Yaocho Zumo, that whole thing just got ugly and it got dark.
Oh, yeah.
It got real ugly. It got real dark.
I don't want to give away any spoilers.
Oh, I'm not going to give that in particular.
Scene,
but what I will say is, but the way the tone shifts when they start to mention Yaocho Zumo, and considering that sumo is considered to be, one of the main pillars of Japanese cultural identity. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that tone shift whenever they were talking about Yaocho Zumo was very pronounced. Their reactions to everything was very rash, very
brutal.
It was brutal. And brutal is something that you could call the entire show brutal. It is an exercise in brutality.
We are going to get into some of the parts that a lot of people really focused on about the bullying and the hazing and things of that nature that were portrayed in the show, and how that compares and contrasts to what happens in real life. We'll get to that in just a minute.
But I still have one last paragraph of the synopsis.
Go ahead and finish off that synopsis.
Okay, so while all of this is going on, a headstrong reporter, Kunishima, has been assigned to cover the in-show stable. She is resentful at first, but eventually comes to enjoy watching the wrestlers improve their skills. She also has a very rocky past and is often chastised for her defiance.
I really like that character.
I love Kunishima.
Yeah, she's pretty.
She seems
rad.
like someone we would hang out with, honestly.
And you can tell from the moment they introduced her as, she lived in the U.S. for a while, that she was going to be
troublemaker.
Just as headstrong and
questioning
irreverent as Ino is,
And one of the lines that Ino says, and it's funny because it's a scene where Kunishima is trying to write an article, and so she's going through all of these different videos, and she finds a post-bout interview with Ino, and I think the last thing he says before screaming into the camera and throwing his tongue out, but he just says, "I want to break sumo."
Yeah.
So he definitely has a very irreverent and iconoclastic kind of attitude towards
And
sumo.
I think that's kind of how Kunishima really goes with her journalism as well.
She was formerly a political, what do you call it, like a political journalist.
Yes. She was a political reporter.
They made, I think basically she was like a sacrificial lamb. Her boss gave her permission to do a story on illegal donations, but whenever the heat started to come down from the guys from above, he demoted her to sumo. And the thing about being a sumo correspondent is the secrecy, the non-disclosure agreements. It's very tamped down, and you're a little.
There's a lot of stuff that JSA doesn't want you talking about.
Exactly, and whenever you're writing something, like, they will blacklist you if you cross them.
Oh yeah, but you can really see the parallels between not just Ino and Kunishima, but a lot of the different characters.
Yeah,
they all have their passions and the things that they're striving toward, and their motivations can be very similar sometimes. Now, one of the interesting things about this show is that there are some former Rikishi who actually play parts in it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give a little bit of a breakdown on some of those Rikishi right now. So, one of the more notable ones, I guess you can say, would be the actor who plays Inya. In the show, Inya is the highest ranked Rikishi in the in-show stable. He's suffered some injuries, so he ended up dropping down. I think the highest he got was
Komusubi.
Komusubi, yes. He was Komusubi, and then he got injured. He went down to, I think it was Makushita.
Yeah.
And then, he works his way scraping back up to Juryo before he eventually decides to retire because his body's just too broken.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, this guy was actually played by the former Rikishi Chiyonoshin. He is the older brother of Chiyono Kuni. He debuted in 2002 and then retired in 2012 at Mokushita 49. He is currently one of the wrestlers in the former Ozeki Konishki's sumo and sushi exhibitions and will be part of their U.S. East Coast tour this coming June. I want to go to one of these one of these days.
Too.
It looks like so much fun.
Awesome.
I just hope they have vegan sushi.
Word round the campfire is if you buy if you buy a pricier ticket, you could actually wrestle one of them.
Yes, I did see that on their website when I was researching this. You can essentially buy a ticket to wrestle a real pro rikishi.
I know, I want to wrestle Chiyonoshin so bad.
Although at the Roller Town tournament with
doing Butsukari with Gagamaru?
with Gagamaru.
No,
yes.
that's Butsukari. That's not quite the same, but a lot of people had said that doing Butsukari with Gagamaru was like hitting a brick wall. He's just that fucking solid.
Gosh, even though he's been retired for a little while now and he's definitely lost some weight, he is still just
his power
built,
exudes.
Man.
You could just walk by him and just feel power exuding from him. It's pretty awesome.
Another very notable character who is played by an ex-rikishi is the behemoth Shizouchi, the monster of sumo. He is played by ex-rikishi Hiroki, who debuted in 2005 and then retired in 2017 at Jurio 13. So he got pretty far up there.
Hell yeah.
So he actually now lives in LA and has also participated in exhibitions with Byamba,
R.I.P.
rest in peace, and Yama of the Yama Sumo Dojo there in Los Angeles.
We know that guy.
We do know that guy. one of the progenitors of Texas Sumo.
Yeah.
One of them, anyway. So another character that I found that was an ex-wrestler was Takahashi. This guy is one of the wrestlers in the in-show stable. He's kind of Inga, the bully Rikishi's
It's like his lackey.
Dude. Yeah.
He's the one with the white rimmed glasses. It's like the...
Yeah, so he actually goes by the name Mecha now, but his Shikona was Aononami when he was wrestling. In his pro career, he actually only got up to Jonidan 94. But he also tours with Konishiki for his sumo and sushi tours.
And he's actually going to be on the East Coast with Chiyonoshin whenever they do their little thing. So if you want to kick that guy's ass and buy one of the tickets to wrestle that guy.
Oh my god, it'll be like a sanctuary reunion. You can just go hang out with some of the actors.
And that's funny because a lot of people that you may have caught Sanctuary probably aren't, connecting those dots like, you know what? I hate that character. I'm going to go fight him.
Hell yeah. So there are at least 4 different named stables in the show from what I could gather, as well as all of the rikishi shown in the tournament scenes. So there could very well be a handful of other past rikishi playing minor roles that, we just couldn't find any information on them. The last one that we named, it was super hard to find any information on him.
I had to troll his Instagram to figure out who he was exactly. So, but when I saw the picture of him as Aononami, and then I saw, Konishki's Sumo and Sushi, and I had to use a lot of Google Translate. But.
Yes. But there were some people behind the scenes as well who come from the world of sumo. One of the very important dudes was Takeshi Amitani. He was the director of Sumo Action. So he helped train the actors, he choreographed fights, and was an all-around consultant for all things sumo in the show. And fun fact, he is also one of the progenitors of Texas Sumo.
So the way that it happened was Justin Kizzard had trained. Yep, Justin Kizzard, Dark Circle Sumo, had trained with Yama and had trained with Takeshi Amitani, and this is back when he lived in LA. So whenever he left LA and moved to Austin and started his own sumo club, he ended up, crossing paths with Tom Zabel.
Yes.
And Tom Zabel is definitely one of the main guys who has built up Texas sumo from the ground up. But, whenever you got extra guys coming around wanting to, have
combine forces and multiply their power.
San Antonio and Austin's not that far apart, so it must have been really easy.
Drive.
So anyway, whenever Tom Zabel of Mighty Eagle Sumo, Justin Kizzert of Dark Circle Sumo, who was trained with Takeshi and Yama, when he came down, they actually trained Corey Morrison, of Dallas Sumo Club,
Oyakata,
who trained me.
Yeah.
So that is my sumo lineage. And I just think that's so fucking cool. It's just like, oh my God. And
6 degrees of sanctuary.
Oh my God. It's just like, that's my senpai. So that's my great grand senpai.
Nice. We had such a great time watching this show, and we really wanted to know what our listeners thought of it, who had watched it and had some hot takes or had some burning questions. So our first question is actually from another progenitor of, American Sumo, the illustrious John Jax. Why don't you go ahead and read the comments that he had?
Okay. So, Mr. Jack says, some of the violence rings true to what I know, but the young guy's crazed behavior would have had him tossed out on his butt into the street within an hour. Imagine a new cadet behaving like that at West Point. Same outcome. Aloha, bro, and no come back. And that's something that I have heard from a lot of people on, like on Facebook, like the Sumo group and, the World of Sumo group.
Yeah.
And there's 2 different sentiments I kind of heard. One was just like, oh, that is so unrealistic. That would never happen. That's just, whatever. And then the other one is, well, maybe they just thought they could change him. Maybe they just thought sumo would fix him.
Yeah.
I've seen those 2 responses the most.
Honestly, I can see it if it's like a brand spanking new recruit to the stable, but it really seems like it's the ones that have been there for a while that the elders seem to be more reluctant to cast out. The ones that they've put a lot more work into and invested all this time and energy, when they start acting up, it can be a lot different, but we can get into more of that in a moment.
Yeah. But I think that does ring true, though, because there's a lot of blasphemies that, Enno had committed against, the sacredness of sumo. And hell no, I don't think like any stable in this world, this dimension, outside of Sanctuary's dimension.
Yeah.
Nobody in our dimension.
IRL.
Yeah. Enno would not last very long.
I think John Jax is right about that.
He is very right about that, but that does not do anything for my suspension of disbelief with watching the show, and I'll tell you why. It's because to me, look at all the different stable names. It's just almost like a totally different world, a totally different reality. And even though they're alluding to these real life stables and alluding to these real life rikishi, all in all, they have plausible deniability because it's all fiction. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that really gives them a lot of creative wiggle room, but sumo is serious shit with older Japanese people.
Oh,
it really is, and they take it very seriously. I mean, like us, I am a sumo tori. I take sumo exceptionally seriously, but I do like to be irreverent. I do like poop and fart jokes, But whenever it comes to actually doing sumo, it is something that I hold sacred, and it's because, I want to treat sumo and Japanese culture the way I would wish other people would treat indigenous culture, the way that I would wish they would treat, Pawnee culture or, Seminole culture, Choctaw culture.
For a character like Enno, though, who's already in that culture and really his main motivation at that point in time is just money.
Yeah.
And it's not the same.
That's exactly what I was about to say, is that, but I'm a guest within the culture. And so to see his behavior like that really kind of like makes my blood run cold, because I would seriously, like, if I nothing like that nothing could ever possess me to act like that within the context of sumo, but it just makes me like shudder to think, what if? Mm-hmm. And it's different whenever you're on the inside looking out than when you're on the outside looking in. Whenever you're an insider, you know, you do have a bit more wiggle room because you do have that cultural consciousness. You do have that background. You just know there's things that you know from growing up that way that outsiders just kind of don't get.
Right.
And so I think that within the realm of the fictional story, I think that Insho just really saw a lot in himself as Oyakata and as a former Rikishi. I think he saw so much of himself in Ino, he just wanted to keep giving him a chance. And he was fucking good.
Yeah.
He won 21 consecutive bouts.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, for his skill and for the fact that he just saw a lot of himself in this rebellious kid, he just wanted to help him out. He wanted to keep him around.
Yeah, those are all very good points. I agree. But as far as the actual violence in the show, we did get a question from Kaylin and Ben, who apparently share a Facebook account.
Yeah, they're Iron Mountain.
Iron Mountain Sumo Club out there in Tennessee. So they asked, what do you like most about the series? And do you think the violence in the series is worse, the same, or not as bad compared to pro sumo, like in real life?
Yeah.
So, as far as what we liked about the series, we are going to get more into that a little bit later, but I do want to say the creators did a hell of a job keeping up the drama and the suspense, and I really appreciate that they kept it so engaging from scene to scene. As for how realistic the violence is, and the bullying, and the hazing, and whatever you might want to call it, I honestly would not be surprised if it is pretty similar to reality. There are some recent ex-Rikishi who have expressed that it only seems the JSA has gotten better at not letting these incidents get out to the public instead of actually putting forth an effort to stop it. Yet, we do still see recent cases that have broken through to the public eye, such as the Isegahama incident last year that involved a wrestler being beaten and having boiling water thrown on him, and then the most recent one earlier this month at Michinoku Stable.
That's Kiribayama Stable.
Mm-hmm. From what I heard, he didn't even really know about it. That victim was actually hit with a frying pan and shot with an airsoft gun. And yeah, it's not a real gun, but if you've ever been shot with an airsoft gun or a BB gun, that shit fucking hurts.
And it can break the skin. It sucks.
It can actually break bones too, depending on where you shoot someone. But, you know, all of this happened only to have the Oyakata respond by saying that it was just brotherly fighting, like what would happen in any family.
And, you know, coming from the res, that tracks. Like, we used to shoot each other. That's how I know what it feels like to be shot with an airsoft gun. And we did beat the hell out of each other. But the frying pan, maybe not so much. Boiling water, hell nah.
Well, it definitely seems like it wasn't something that was happening in front of the Oyakata. Like, that seems to kind of be the trend now is, you know, make sure no one's looking when you start bullying these people. And looking, again, at the latest violence scandal, it seems to be that the perpetrator made sure to never abuse his victim in front of the Michinoku Oyakata. However, again, using Michinoku as an example, it still seems to be a struggle just to gain an appropriate response, even when the victim does speak up. The victim in that case was very vocal about what he had been through.
Yeah, even got his folks involved.
Very brave coming forward. He went through all the right channels. And eventually, because nothing was really being done about it, he had to go to the media.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason the rest of us found out about it.
All right, so next we have Mr. Marquinas. Mr. Marquinas says, I just want to say, as a sumo wrestler who has been thirsted over, episode 3 almost killed me with laughter. Oh my God, I freaking know. Okay, so this is my take on a thing. I like to feel sexy. And sometimes I get these, these thirsty mofos sending me these messages on the internet, especially on the Instagram, you know, with names like Chubby Chaser 420 666 69 or whatever. And it's like, Okay, fine. You can, compliments are cool. Who doesn't like feeling sexy? But dude, don't get fucking weird about it. I don't want to hear about your tongue in my toes. It's gross.
Ew.
Yeah, they do that. Or what about the guy that was just like, I just want to hear you fart.
Oh, God.
It was on Vine or something like that. It's like, I just want to see a picture of your butthole while you fart. I'm like, okay. if that's what you're into. But I mean, and oh gosh, I know Marky, has expressed to me some of the messages he's gotten before. So
it can get pretty disgusting.
Yeah, it's and even though sometimes it can be embarrassing, sometimes it can make you feel shameful, sometimes it's just like, oh Jesus, what is wrong with this person? That is still seriously not even 1% of what happens to women.
As a vagina haver, let me just say that it might feel good sometimes to get compliments, but there are way too many incidents where it just gets creepy and sometimes downright scary.
Very fucking
when you
scary.
Start getting unsolicited attention from people who view you as a sexual object.
Yeah, so seriously, if you're listening to this and you send unsolicited dick pics, don't.
Yeah,
don't.
That one for sure. And also, if you want to compliment someone, sure, compliment them, but don't make it weird.
Yeah, I like to compliment people like on things that they can help, things that they do. It's just like, oh, your makeup looks really good. Oh, your outfit is very well put together.
So how would you
I
do
like
that
how you wrestle.
For a sumo tori? Would you be
It's
like, oh, you tied your mawashi very well?
No, I would say it's just like, oh man, I was like, hey, your posture is looking good. Oh, look at that suriyashi. You got a really good low tachi.
Oh, I can tell you've been working on your shiko. Your thigh
Hell
muscles
yeah,
are getting real defined.
Exactly. Shit like that. That's cool. But it's just like, oh, I just want to slide my tongue between your butt cheeks. And it's just like, Jesus. God
I don't need to hear that on my lunch break after just helping some 90-year-old figure out what their password is.
Exactly, yeah. When you work in tech support and you're, angry and kind of frustrated and you're just like, okay, I just have to make it through, a couple more hours. Oh, I got my 15-minute break. Let me check my Instagram.
And you're like, oh God, it's some like shriveled dick with like...
It's like, that's not what I wanted to see on my fucking lunch break.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That doesn't sound very lunch-tastic.
But what I did think was funny in the scene in Sanctuary, whenever the scene that Mr. Marky Nas is talking about.
Yes, the episode 3 scene where Ino finds out that one of the other wrestlers has an admirer and decides to make money off of this by taking covert pictures of that other wrestler in his stable.
And shower video.
And shower video to sell to this admirer. Which is not cool, but the response to it. So yeah,
once, and was it Inku? It was Inku, right?
Inku, I think.
Yeah, so whenever Inku finds out, and he's super fucking pissed about it, goes right up to Ino, and he's like, why didn't you make me look cool? That was his problem with it. That was his only fucking problem with it. Was like, yeah, you put all these pictures of me looking naked and sexy all over the internet, but why didn't you make me look cool?
And I thought that was a weird response at first. It wasn't until about the third watch through that I noticed when Ino gets the idea to do this, he is watching Inku tack pictures of himself up on the wall. Like, I think he's a little bit conceited.
Yeah.
So that's why he had that reaction. But I can kind of understand because, even if someone is going to take, like, covert pictures of me, I at least want them to look good, goddammit.
And from Mr. Drew Bramlett, you want to read this one?
Yeah, so Drew says, if there's anything you could change about the show, whether it be a character change, actor choice, location, what would it be and why? I want to know more about Ino's mother's boyfriend.
Oh, fuck yeah. That guy's great.
He is the only black dude in the show.
Only one.
He shows up multiple times. He even has a few lines, but I cannot find the actor's name.
I can't either.
Anywhere.
If anyone knows the name of the actor who portrays Sanae's boyfriend, and you know who he is because he's the only black dude in the whole show.
The only black dude in the whole show.
And he's constantly filling her up. Well,
yes, they are constantly like I said, like I put in the synopsis, dry humping each other in public.
Constantly. And what's worse about it is, this isn't going to be a huge spoiler.
Nah.
But Ino's father was hit by a car and is in a coma. Well, he was in a coma. Now he's just kind of paralyzed. He can't really do much.
By the end of the series, yeah.
Yeah, so
but they're sitting there next to his hospital bed just making out.
Yeah,
just feeling up on her titties.
Yeah, and he's just laying there like, well, fuck.
The character, I don't know what to really think about the character. Is he also just kind of a dick, or is he just kind of clueless and horny?
I think he's just there for the ride. He's just, he's just horny. But
I really want to know who that actor is.
I do too.
Because honestly, he is pretty cute.
and he brought a lot of like brevity to the show whenever it really needed it, I think. Especially, there was a scene after Ino had
he almost got kicked out.
Yeah.
And then his mom and the boyfriend came to yell at him.
At the stable.
Yeah, at the stable.
And so like while they're sitting there screaming, and it's I think In-Show said, she's even crazier than he is, or something like that. It's like, this whole family's just freaking crazy. And so they're just throwing shit at each other and just screaming and carrying on and just all of this crazy shit.
And like the boyfriend's standing there with a couple of the Rishi just watching this all happening.
And it's just kind of looking at him like, hey, how's it going? So,
and he's hitting his vape, and he kind of looks over and they're staring at him. And he's like, oh, sorry, am I not supposed to vape here? That's why I say maybe he's just a little clueless and just.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought he was a great addition, and he really was. Like, when the show gets funny, it's fucking hilarious, and he definitely brought like a good chunk of that hilarity.
And that's what I love about the show, is it has its very dramatic moments, and it has its horrifying moments, and it has its very comedic moments as well.
It doesn't do anything small. Every single aspect of this show is a gut punch or a face punch.
It's pretty over the top sometimes.
It is very over the top. That's kind of why I like it. It's fucking ridiculous. Basically, if you've ever watched Rowdy Sumo Wrestler Matsutaro, or the manga is called Matsutaro Notari. So if you've ever watched that, and I know a lot of people that hate it, it's basically the dark and gritty version of that.
Yeah.
Except, what's that? Matsutaro's like little buddy's a fellow wrestler, but Ino's little buddy is a Yobadashi.
Right.
But it's essentially the same. It really is.
Very similar.
There's a lot more heaviness. There's a lot more dark shit, I guess, you know. Yeah. But one of the things that people always talk about when they say they don't like Matsutaro is that he's just horribly unlikable. Ino has that.
But Ino has like aspects of his personality that kind of draw people back from just outright hating him. He has redeeming qualities. That's the word I'm looking for. He does have redeeming qualities.
Matsutaro
does not.
Yeah, well, I was about to say is like, if you've only seen that anime, that's on Crunchyroll, that's only like the first season. You could say it's season 1, where it just ends with him leaving sumo with his little buddy. That's not how it ends. Because if
the manga,
well, if you just even if you pay attention to the anime, whenever he's the narrator, whenever he's given exposition and storyline, he has an oicho mage. He's wearing a yukata, and the way his hair, I don't know if he's a yokozuna, but he's a sekitori for sure.
Yeah.
So whenever he left sumo at the end, that wasn't the end. He comes back and kicks ass.
Yeah.
But we don't see that part. But in Sanctuary, as a parallel, we do start to see Ino, coming back and kicking ass.
Yeah, and kind of, really getting into it and taking it seriously.
More serious.
Finally starting to do Shiko.
Oh man. But that whole training scene in episode 7, that whole, it's like the Rocky fucking scene. If you could almost hear Eye of the Tiger, or that, what's that other one? Do-do-do. Do-do-do. It's almost like that kind of feeling you get watching Rocky, you get from watching this training montage. It's a fucking training montage. And I will tell you this, I watch that shit, it gets me pumped up. Whenever I was a little kid, I would drink way too much Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper, and I would watch Bruce Lee movies, and we would go out on Yellow Horse Drive, and we would beat the shit out of each other. We would karate the hell out of each other. It was like me and my cousins, the Leading Fox kids down the street, and fucking, God, I can't remember who else. But we would get together when it would flood, and all the drainage ditches had like waist-deep water. We would just kung fu the shit out of each other. It was great. So that same feeling I got as a little kid, you know, getting hyped up on caffeine and karate movies is the exact same fucking feeling I get watching that training scene in Sanctuary. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do some goddamn Shiko. It pumps me up. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. And I made my brother do Butsukari with me after watching that for like fucking 20 minutes straight until I dropped. I couldn't do Butsukari no more. But
Dang.
That's what pumped me up to do it. So I think before I go to Keiko from now on, I just have to put that on or just watch it in the car, you know, while I'm driving down there or something. But seriously, that, if you want to get motivated and, you know, you do sumo, watch that goddamn scene in episode 7.
Yes, that is definitely something that I know one of the questions earlier was, what do you like about the show? That is something that I like about the show, is seeing Ino's progression just from this kind of little thug.
Little shit.
Yeah, into like a dedicated sumotori.
Yeah.
You know? As far as things that we might want to change about the show, as Drew had asked, the only thing I would change is I thought it was kind of weird that a Rikishi of Ino's rank was allowed to walk around in street clothes so much.
Oh, that was another thing people brought up.
Yeah, that didn't seem very realistic to me as far as what I know about how the wrestlers are supposed to present themselves out in public, especially the lower ranked wrestlers. So I don't even know if I would say that it's something I would change. I just thought it was a little off.
There's 3 things I do have to say about that in particular. So whenever they're around the stable, you notice Ino was outside smoking a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
So whenever you're just outside the stable, you know, and it's after Keiko, it's after lunch, after the nap, you know, and then you got to
He would go to the park across the street and smoke a cigarette.
But yeah, but at that particular time during the day, other Rikishi would just be wearing their inside clothes, you know, like some shorts and some t-shirts, and they would go to the store, you know, pick up something to eat, or, you know, if it was something close within walking distance, yeah, they do that, you know, that's a thing. But and you'll see some of those like Sumo Primetime or like even the, you know, Nihon Sumo Kyokai videos, you know, they'll show them like in the stable, but just wearing shorts and a t-shirt. But sometimes they'll go to the store like that. So it's whenever they're going out and about and they plan on being out for the day.
Like the dates that he went on with Nanami.
That would have... and if you notice, Inga was in a yukata whenever they first met.
Right. So it's just weird to me that he would go to these clubs, he would go to these restaurants, he would be seen in public without a yukata.
But that brings me to the third thing I wanted to bring up, is that the fucking... there's an anthropology, we would say there's what people say, there's what the rules are, and then there's what people do. And so... If remember Asonoyama, whenever he got suspended, they were talking about how whenever he was breaking the COVID protocols, he was wearing Western clothes. In Ozeki, you know,
that's
going
true.
out,
he was
you know,
in Ozeki.
and he was wearing like kind of the same fashion as Ino, you know, that kind of like, you know, I listen to hip hop.
Yeah. Street clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the thing too, is there are Rikishi that do try to sneak out and they do wear their Western clothes when they kind of want to be cool, and that's another thing I was always curious about. What about Shodai and his goth wear? You know, like where does that come in?
Does he put on his Ankh necklace and his fucking eyeliner and like... Well, okay, speaking of which, Ino did have a lot of black crushed velvet that he wore in the show.
Of black crushed velvet.
Maybe he was channeling a little bit of Shodai's side there.
See, I think Ino might have been, you know, representative of several different Rikishi. And honestly, I think it's more of like an archetype, like a character archetype within, you know, the Japanese style of writing. Like within Japanese pop culture, I think Ino is like an archetype.
Anything else that you might want to change about the show? Or as far as like the actor choice, I thought all of the actors were fantastic.
Oh, fucking great.
I'm glad I know who Onigiri is now, the comedian.
Onigiri's great. Umayama.
He plays one of the elder guys.
The Oyakata guys. Yeah, he was like, as far as the Toshiori goes, I thought it was really cool that they were able to like de-age them and then show like those portraits, those full life-size portraits.
When they were Rikishi.
Yeah, I love looking at Unishima's because it's you could tell. I mean, they did a good job with de-aging him, but you could still tell that's a de-aging. It's just like, look at those fucking eyebrows. It's like, look at that face. Look at those titties. It's
it was the eyebrows. Like he still had that kind of scowl.
Yeah. But whoever did the makeup for that did a damn good job de-aging him. But still, I thought it was kind of ridiculous just getting to know Inushima as a character and then seeing him as an Ozeki in that portrait. I just wanted to laugh. It's like, oh, that's the guy. No wonder he couldn't be Insho. What a fucking nerd.
All right. Now, our next question comes from Nathaniel Hudson from Tennessee Sumo, who goes by Natbug001 on Instagram.
And Tennessee Sumo.
And Tennessee Sumo, yes. They do have an official Tennessee Sumo Instagram page as well.
Oyakata of the Antioch Sumo Bears.
Yeah. So he says, after the finale, I immediately messaged Zombie Mommy, who is the Iron Mountain, and cursed the show writers. Since I've cooled off and ruminated, I appreciate it more. It was actually epic. They had better make a season 2 after all that. And I agree, I may literally cry if there isn't a season 2.
Well, what I'm hoping...
Knowing Netflix, it is very possible that they will forego any more seasons, but we're just going to have to keep all of our fingers and toes and eyes and legs crossed.
About that.
What?
It was number 1 for 2 weeks on Netflix Japan.
That's true. That is true.
And I think it might catch on more. I know, like, within the sumo world, especially the online sumo community, there's a lot of people that have watched it, and there's a whole influx of newbies that are curious about sumo because of it.
Yeah, I mentioned that I was doing an episode about a J-drama on my Facebook page earlier today, and I actually got comments asking, what is this J-drama? And I got to tell people who have probably never even paid attention to sumo before about the show. Maybe they don't know anything about sumo, but they love watching Japanese TV.
Oh, hell yeah.
So they can go check it out.
Who has the best commercials in the world? Japan.
Yeah, definitely. Some of their commercials are just fucking wild.
All right. Oh, next question from the illustrious Eros Armstrong. I love you, her. Eros.
Absolute legend.
Who's your favorite character and why?
So I really love Kunishima's spunk and willingness to take on anyone's bullshit. I also really loved Shimizu. Is that
the Yobidashi?
The Yobidashi, yeah. Shimizu, I honestly think he has the most passion for sumo out of all of the characters. He's pretty small and he wasn't able to put on any weight and he can't really make it as a wrestler, but that doesn't stop him one bit. He wants to stick with sumo, so he just becomes a dedicated Yobidashi instead. And he's always pushing Ino to do his best, even if he has to chase him down and beg him to do it, kicking and screaming. I also really liked Ryuki. I think he's a very interesting character.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of just feel for him,
I do too.
Sometimes people who achieve a lot and appear to have like a really great life are just really struggling with stuff behind the scenes.
Man,
and sometimes it can be really dark stuff.
That fucking tracks. That tracks hard.
Yeah. Who are some of your favorite characters?
Shizuuchi.
I
fucking feel Shizuuchi so fucking hard.
I really liked him too.
At this point, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to break just one spoiler.
It's fine.
I left some of the more important ones alone, but this one is important to the story, but I'm going to break it anyway. A lot of people stopped watching because of the matricide.
Oh.
They thought there was straight, and I think actually it may have listed that in the content warnings on Netflix. It might have said content warning matricide.
Well, they made it look like he was the one that killed his mother and his little brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not what happened. And
No.
again, once you get to, the most inspirational episode 7, that's whenever you see more about Shizuuchi's past and about what really happened that day.
Yeah.
And his name is actually, in the show, his real name in the show is Kunihiko.
Mhm.
And you could see his, it was like a ghost or a hallucination of his mom. Like, come on, Kunihiko. That
Yeah.
was,
She seemed to have a lot of problems, though.
She really did. So, and that's kind of why I feel for him, know. I think she was a single mother, and she was very drunk, very belligerent, and very abusive towards those two little boys.
Like maybe mentally ill as well.
I think she had some mental illness.
Not that, mental illness even leads to that the vast majority of the time, but it's just, it's kind of hard to watch that, but it really lends a lot to the character.
It shows who he is and what he's been through. And
you really start to understand his motivations and why he does what he does.
Why he's mute. So
yeah, he never talks in the show at all.
So one of the things that he does speak with is sumo. And he's part of the Koku stable, and his Oyakata called him Bakemono. Called him a monster. And he was training with the Sekitori whenever they were having Keiko, but he had his left arm pinned, and he was only able to use his right arm while fighting the Sekitori.
And the Oyakata was asked about that, like, hey, why does he have his left arm pulled back? And the Oyakata's response was...
Yeah, he's left-handed. He has to hold back his dominant arm so he doesn't injure the Sekitori.
Yes, exactly.
But he does, like I said, I don't want to spoil too much, but I will say Kunihiko did not kill his mom. And the stuff that had happened, to show what kind of a monster he can be, to me, doesn't necessarily mean that's who he is. It just shows what he's capable of. And, personally, I've been through some shit like that. There's what I've done. There's what I'm capable of doing, but I would really rather not be pushed that far. And I could see Shizuuchi as much of the same. He is capable of great violence and great brutality, but he would just much rather not be pushed that far. He would just rather do sumo and just kind of do his thing.
Well, speaking of what he's capable of, our next question comes from Lakota MC on Instagram, who I think is a Dallas member?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Lakota Garrison.
I think I met him a couple of times. He's pretty tall, and he's got, like, curly hair, I think.
Yeah, he's Lakota.
Yeah,
like he's actually of the Lakota people, so.
No, he was named after his people.
His people.
Yeah. So he asks, what parts of the body do you think can be slapped off? So I wasn't even aware that ears could be slapped off. I kind of wonder if something like that might have happened in the past, and maybe that's the reason they now have the rules that they have, the requirements of like open palm strikes only and no reaching between the legs. Gosh, what do you even think would be the name of like a dick removing Marite?
Well, back before sumo was codified into what it is, I think that was during the Heian period. I'd have to ask, but before sumo was turned into what it really was, just dudes butt naked in the streets fighting to the death.
Yeah, there were kicks, punches, all kinds of stuff.
And sumo at that point was an actual fighting system. I will always maintain that sumo is a martial art, and in fact, it's one of the pillars of Budo. But I think it's not. You hear people like fucking what's his name, Joe Rogan and his ilk. They'll say things like, "Oh, well, sumo's not combat effective," or you couldn't really use that against BJJ or whatever people like that say.
He also believes in chemtrails or whatever. So who cares?
Anyway, but what I was gonna say is sumo did actually have its roots as a comprehensive fighting system. It just had to get nerfed to make it palatable for the nobles, which is why they use open palms.
Yes, and for the religious aspect of it and stuff as as well, but that still doesn't answer the question, what parts of the body do you think can be slapped off?
Okay, so if we're talking about ancient sumo, like Baki style, the dick, for sure. Because if you're butt naked fighting and you're like, doing this, like fighting.
Just grab and twist until it just kind of...
No, but slapped off, could you have a powerful enough harite like to slap someone's dick off?
Opening a Coke bottle or something. I don't know.
How fucking... okay, where's Francis Ngannou? Is he willing to slap off a dick? Nose? I think if you do it just right, nose. Definitely teeth. I mean,
teeth?
We saw teeth.
You could definitely slap some teeth out. I mean, I've seen that happen outside of sumo before.
So, but yeah, I would say any type of floppy danglies.
Yeah.
Nipples. Oh yeah, nipples. I mean, think about little teeny tiny dude nipples. I mean, you just catch it just right. You might fucking...
Little teeny tiny dude nipples? I don't know. I've seen some big nipples.
I've seen some big dude nipples, but I've also seen some fucking micro nipples. Yeah. Like, what's that actor's name? What's his name? He was on Community. They called him micro nipples in the show. Eric Christian Olsen, that guy. But anyway, so I mean, if you have teeny tiny nipples like that and just say, and this is very important, trim your fucking fingernails.
Yes.
But if someone didn't trim their fingernails and they had some fucking huge coke nail, and they're trying to do their tsupari on you and they fucking slice your nipples off, I think that counts.
Oh, God. I don't like thinking about my nipples being scraped off.
All right, or any body part just being slapped off. It's kind of like how Star Wars has a weird obsession with amputating body parts.
Yeah.
I think Sanctuary might kind of be getting into that same territory.
You think so? You
Maybe.
think we're going to see some more body parts getting slapped off in the show?
Maybe. I think there's going to be more brutality.
Oh, there's definitely going to be more brutality. All right, next question we have is from Bass Playing Fool. They ask, how does this compare with the sumo-based series available on Disney Plus, Sumo Do, Sumo Don't?
Oh.
We were actually planning on doing an episode about that show as well.
Yeah.
But things happened and we just got to this first.
Yeah. But so Sumo Do, Sumo Don't actually was choreographed, coordinated, what have you, by Takeshi Amatani.
Yeah, he was part of the production for that as well.
So what I really liked about Sumo Do, Sumo Don't is the characters' movements. They and a lot of credit goes to the actors. But they kind of, some of them appear unsure of themselves. And whenever they start to get the hang of sumo, they don't have like those chiseled, practice, oiled, graceful movements that, a pro rikishi would have. And you could really visually tell these are amateur sumo wrestlers.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference is Sanctuary is about pro sumo.
Yeah.
Sumo Do, Sumo Don't is about amateur sumo.
And Sumo Do, Sumo Don't is a very lighthearted, would you say quasi-romantic?
Oh, yeah.
There's
definitely.
A little bit of romance in there.
There's definitely more romance in that show than there is in Sanctuary. And less blood.
A lot less blood. There's still blood in Sumo Do, Sumo Don't.
Definitely not as much, though.
Yeah. So Sumo Do, Sumo Don't is a sequel to the original movie, I think that came out in 1992, about a failing sumo club at a Christian university in Japan. Mm-hmm. And so there's a guy that's from, I think he's English, and, he's a part of the team. It's kind of like a bunch of misfits.
Yeah.
So a lot of those characters from, the original movie make appearances in, the sequel, but it's mostly about these younger college kids. They have a lot of parallel adventures that they did in the movie, but it's longer. I think it's like 10 episodes and each one's like an hour. So they really dive into the story. You really get to know and love all of these characters in Sumo Do, Sumo Don't, but it is nowhere near as brutal. It's like the polar opposite. It's lighthearted. It's hilarious. It's, sometimes you feel that kind of romantic tension here and there. And it's something that you could watch with your kids.
Well, one of the other big differences as well is the presence of women.
Yeah.
In Sumo Do, Sumo Don't, the first person you see in that series doing sumo, not the movie, the series, is a female character. And there are multiple female characters in the dojo doing sumo throughout the show.
Hell yeah.
Whereas in Sanctuary, there's a scene pretty early on where I think it was Ino had, he was being beaten up by one of the other Rikishi, and Kunishima steps in to try to stop him.
Oh, and this was just at the Keiko, at the stable.
This was just at the Keiko, at the stable. This wasn't a tournament. They weren't at the Kokuki-Con or anything. It was just practice. Normal, everyday practice. She steps in to try to do something about it, and they're like, oh, no women on the sacred doyo, the sumo sanctuary.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the practice space. It's something Geiko. I can't remember the Japanese term, but yeah, there's no women allowed, on the clay.
Yeah, whereas in Sumo Do, Sumo Don't, every practice, there are women in Mawashis doing sumo with the men.
Yeah, and in the movie Sumo Do, Sumo Don't,
there was even a female wrestler in that one as well.
Yeah, she went undercover though, so she wore what do you call one of those shoulder chest binders, to hide her boobs, and she put her hair up in a chonmage, and was just wearing a mawashi. So she gets up, starts, kicking some ass. So it's, she's kind of doing it undercover. But I think they were saying, and that's one of the sentiments expressed in the movie, is that women should be able to do sumo too.
Right.
And they really bring that back over with Sumo Do, Sumo Don't, with no, women can do sumo too. Hard stop. And I fucking love that. They say sumo is for everybody. And that's what Dallas Sumo Club's all about too. And that very last episode, spoiler alert, a Sumo Do, Sumo Don't, they're talking about a co-ed tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, and we just had something like that with the Roller Town Showdown. They're in Salina, Texas. Salina.
And
it was fantastic. I really wish we had been able to get some of the other just really spectacular U.S. Women wrestlers out there, like Eros Armstrong, like Kellyanne Ball. The ones that were there, don't get me wrong, were fucking fantastic. Like one of my new favorite ones is Etan from Dallas Sumo Club. Dude, she fucking kicks ass.
She's brutal.
I want to see her go up against Kellyanne. Or, even go up against like Arrows, or just, I want to see everybody fight.
I know, damn it.
But that is, going back to the show, that is something that Kunishima brings up later on as well, when they're having a press conference with the new Ozeki, Ryuki. She asks him, well, what do you think about, possibly changing this tradition of women aren't allowed in the doyo? And he kind of gives a non-answer about it, which was apparently still too much for his father, who freaked out about it. But it kind of makes me wonder if that's something that's going to be pushed more later on in the series.
If they do more of this, they should, and I'm going to be very mad if they don't.
I hope they do.
But I hope that is something that they tackle too.
All right, next question is from Ben Marquez,
who is in Japan right now.
Yes, currently in Japan. I know he was able to go to day 1 of the current Basho.
Oh, and he was on Sumo Primetime.
And he was on Sumo Primetime! And he got a shout out on the Sumo Primetime live stream that we just watched. Yeah,
Hiro Morita was like, and I met this guy named Ben, and he was very cool. And
he was from Texas.
He's like, and he just gave Texas like a whole shout out. Thanks to Ben.
Yes.
So fuck yeah, Ben.
Ben asks, how do you feel about how the series ends? And what are your hopes for season 2, if there is one? So I actually liked how season 1 ended. I know a lot of people didn't, but I mean, at this point, we've had these kind of endings in so many different shows so often, where it's just, it cuts off right in the middle of the action.
Yeah.
But they do that on purpose to get you to watch the next season. It's to give you that feeling of suspense to where you just can't wait to watch more. I really loved how the in-show Rikishi started to finally get along toward the end, and the last moments were just like so suspenseful. I am really hoping that there is a season 2. If there's not, like I said earlier, I may just have to cry about it. I may just have to shed tears into my Pochita stuffed plushie. And just mourn the loss of more Sanctuary. I hope that we find out more about what's motivating Shizuchi.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I would love to hear him say his first words in the show. I think that Ishihara, that's a character we haven't mentioned yet.
Oh,
Ishihara, I thought was super cute.
Ishihara is super cute. He's just kind of like a little puppy dog.
He is. Sometimes to a fault, though. So one of the other things that I hope is that he stops being such a doormat.
Yeah.
I also hope that Ino keeps wearing lots of black crushed velvet like some sort of 90s goth chick.
Get that boy Switchblade Symphony CD.
But how do you feel about how it ended? And what are you hoping to see in season 2?
Man, I wish they would have at least showed us the results of the bout, that the final bout that they're showing, like right there in the final moments of the final episode. It's like, man, you can't get me wet and not fuck me. What the hell? So I did kind of have that what the hell moment about it, but
I don't know. I've kind of grown to like it when they end stuff like that. But
the Don Potsky was so fucking sad.
It was, yeah. And honestly, that scene was another reason why the Yobadashi guy, what is his name again? Shimazu. That's another reason why he really started to grow on me, was because of that scene. You could really tell in that moment, like, just his dedication for this thing that he loves so much.
Oh, yeah. For me, I think I would really want to see... I want to see kind of how Ino starts to deal with this trauma a bit more. I kind of want to see... to me, that was personally inspiring because of the shit that I go through, the shit that I've been through, the shit that I'm still dealing with. But, seeing, how he faced his trauma and seeing that his family is as fucking crazy as mine.
Yeah.
And I feel for him in that respect too. Even though I identified more with Shizuuchi, there were certain scenes with Ino that I was like, oh God, I've been there.
Yeah.
But I really want to see him, kind of grow and change. I want to see that budding Kunishima and, fucking Ino romance. I think...
You really think that's gonna happen?
I think Nanami's gonna rear her head back again and cause some trouble.
Ooh, that actually brings me to one of the theories that I found online, which is the theory that Ito, the obscenely old, creepy guy who's
the
like
nefarious
way powerful,
Shinto priest kind of guy,
that he hired Nanami.
What?
Yeah, I found this on some sort of Japanese blog that was talking about the series. So, besides the fact that Nanami is obviously stringing him along for money, it is possible that Ito had hired her to mess with him. And there are some clues throughout the show that kind of lend weight to this theory. It does seem kind of like too much of a coincidence that they were both from the same town. You remember when they first met at that hostess club? She literally just walks up to him and gets him to tell her his name, and then she goes, "Oh wait, you're from the same town as me." And then, what the fuck was up with that yearbook that he found in her closet?
Oh, after he tried not to sniff her panties? He finds that yearbook and there's a name, Nana Koga, and it's just totally scratched out. So what the fuck is that? And that's
the picture is scratched out. You can still read the name, but the picture is just totally scratched out.
And that's what I was wondering. Is like, so if they are from the same town.
Well, I was kind of wondering, does the yearbook say that it's from that town or that? Well, I don't think it was the same town. I think it was like maybe the same region or something.
Same prefecture.
It's hard
or
to
whatever.
tell. Yeah, but does it say maybe the name of a different town than what she said she was from?
I don't.
Or
I
is
don't think it
same
had
one?
anything on the. I think it was just like blank on the outside.
It did have, because I watched it a few times because I was trying to see if there were any clues. It did have some stuff on the cover, but I mean, I don't read fucking Japanese.
Well, if maybe we could find someone that reads kanji that could be like, tell us what this says, please. But I think if they are.
It's very intriguing.
If they are from the same town, I think that's more incentive for her to come back in the second season.
I don't know.
Because there might be
After
some
their
shit in the
relationship
past.
ended.
Yeah. But Ito, that whole shit with Ito, there was a whole scene, involving the Yaocho Zumo. And he does know a lot about people. So if there was anyone that he wanted to know anything about, he knows weird, intimate details about their life. There was that journalist that he picked up, and then he goes, "Oh, here, this is for you," and dropped him off like at his
with the candy.
Yeah, at his baby mama's house.
Yeah.
And then she goes, "Oh," she took the bag from him, goes, "Oh, I'm glad that you picked these up. You know, our kid loves these." And like he knew.
And she said, "Oh, she just got into these.
Oh,
like
that's
she just started liking them." And then he's like, "Oh, fuck."
He didn't realize what he was holding. He didn't know what was in the bag when Ito handed it to him. But Ito knew whatever that new fangled snack was that she liked or that the kid liked. So that was creepy that he knew that much and orchestrated shit to where, you know, all of that just kind of unfolded. And that really illustrated that he's got connections to make shit happen.
Yes.
And he knows minute, scary details about people and could find out shit if he wants to.
Oh, I could just see him becoming such a great fucking villain.
I know, like, he's like the Gus Fring of the sumo world. Yes. And he's not even part of the Kyokai. He's like a fucking, just a patron of the Ryokoku stable.
Yeah, he's like a sponsor or whatever.
Yeah, that's all.
Oh, I can't wait for season 2.
know.
I'm already just like so ready to watch it.
Come on, Netflix. Don't make me kick you in the dick.
Come on. As a little bit of an aside, I found some interesting trivia tidbits, mostly having to do with the wordplay in the show. So one of the things that I noticed in the English version, Ino calls Shizuchi Two-Face, you know, because he has that big scar.
Yeah, like in Batman.
Yeah, Two-Face, like from Batman. But in the Japanese version, he refers to him as Franken, which is short for Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense because, you know, he's also referred to in the series as a quote-unquote monster.
Yeah.
And, you know, Frankenstein's monster, and he is a pretty big guy, so I thought that was a pretty interesting little change that they made there.
That's what I was wondering too, because I kept saying Two-Face, and I was listening to the Japanese, and I was like, I'm not hearing anything that sounds like Two-Face, and I started, what do they call Two-Face in Japan? And so, but then I heard you saying Frank, I was like, oh, something just completely different.
No,
so.
they just changed it to make it like more understandable to a Western audience, I guess.
Within pop culture here, you know.
Right.
So, second little bit of trivia. Ensho, the name of Ino's stable, translates to Monkey General using most translation apps. So yeah, I was like, the Monkey General room.
Yeah.
And it was funny reading some of the synopses where it's like, Inushima was threatening the Monkey General. And I was like... So,
well, speaking of Inushima.
Yeah, Inushima, the name of the rival stable trying to sabotage Ensho, roughly translates as like Dog Island. In fact, you know, that's actually, it's Inujima, you know, but yeah, Inujima.
And when I was researching this episode, I actually found it spelled both ways.
Yeah, Inujima. I think it's just dialectal differences, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dog Island. And that whole, what was that Isle of Dogs kind of claymation movie?
Oh,
that
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's the island.
Aw.
But from what makes this interesting is there is an expression in Japanese, like the equivalent in English is, oh, they're fighting like cats and dogs. In Japanese, it's kenen no naka, which translates to a dog and monkey relationship.
Yeah.
So they're fighting like dogs and monkeys in Japan. They fight like cats and dogs in the US. But I guess dogs and monkeys just, they don't get along in Japan.
I wouldn't know. There's not a lot of monkeys around here to interact with the dogs, so...
Yeah, so you don't see dogs chasing monkeys, and probably monkeys antagonizing the dogs. But...
Do you think that was deliberate, though, that they named those stables after the dog and the monkey?
I think that's very much deliberate. Like,
I think so, too.
There was a whole lot of cultural references that were in the show that I think were, you know, kind of hard to catch for a lot of people. Like whenever you see Enya, whenever he's in the Kokugikon, you know, he's putting on his knee brace, getting ready for his bout, and he's looking over and sees a Sekitori getting his hair done up in the Oicho, you know, Chomage. And so he's just kind of looking at him all wistfully. You know, I think if somebody didn't know the difference between, you know, his Makushita Chonmage and then the Oicho, you know, if that might be a scene that just may have confused somebody, or they just might not have caught it at all.
Right, because really what it was he was kind of remembering his own experience up in that division when he was Komusubi, when he had made it to his highest rank, and then here he was just struggling to get back to Juryo.
Yeah, it's there was a lot of stuff that I think the more immersed in sumo you are, there's a lot more that you can pick up. So if you know somebody that has watched it and it was just like, oh, I don't like it or I don't really get it, and you're really into sumo, watch it with them. Help them understand. Get them into sumo.
Yeah, definitely. Even if they don't know the first thing about sumo, if you watch it with them, I'm sure you can explain a few things, get them a little more familiar with it, and then they might become curious, and then they might want to come join your sumo club if you're part of a sumo club. And if you're not, you guys can start your own sumo club.
Hint.
Well, I have so much more to say about this show.
I do too.
It was so fantastic, but we can't be sitting here talking about TV for the next 3 hours.
Right? There's a whole ass basho going on right now. And
oh, yes.
Yeah, I gotta fucking watch that shit. Tera no Fuji is back.
Tera no Fuji is back.
My sons fought on day 1.
Yep, Ochiai and Atami Fuji.
But my poor son, Atami Fuji, got smoked. He got smoked. But Ochiai is smoking
badass.
Yeah, he's smoking all of them fools.
That's the show. Thank you guys for listening. We love you. You know where to find us online. You can get us on any of the social media. Punx is spelled with an X. If you look us up on Twitter, it's Punx Sumo, because I fucked up the Twitter.
Also, we have a Redbubble with lots of really cool designs.
Yes, we have a Redbubble shop.
And we recently, and also due to Sanctuary, had an excuse to create a TeePublic store. So you could go to our TeePublic store to buy a true to the series Piss Factory t-shirt. So if you want to...
Again, if you haven't seen the show yet, you might not get the reference.
The Piss Factory
part. Go watch the show.
Yes, and buy a Piss Factory shirt, because I totally am. I'm going to sport that, and
That's
nobody's...
That's going to be the name of my new band.
Piss Factory. That's such a deep cut. Like,
I know.
Yeah, you got to really be into shit to be like, oh yeah, dude, Piss Factory.
But if you like our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating. It helps other people find us and enjoy the show. You can email us if you want to, sumopunx@gmail.com. Did we cover all the outro info?
We covered all the outro info.
We did it. That's a wrap. Thank y'all for listening.
Bye.